Alright guys, Silverbeam from Silverbeam Dolls here. I am working on the tutorial some people have requested about how I paint my wayfinders. Now this is a different material than I normally do them, and this is the transparent detail. I believe it is an acrylic. And because the frosted detail that I used to do, they had a couple, the regular detail level, the ultra detail, and they decided to get rid of the regular detailed material, which was cheaper, and do the ultra detailed, and now they have like a super ultra detailed. So this is now the more cheaper material to do it in. It is actually seems nicer. It does have a it's a bit more transparent than the other one. It doesn't have quite as bad as frosting as the other ones did. Now, this part of the translucency for both of these is because it's a little oily, so that could change a little bit over time, and depending on how well they print it, you could have some lines and some frosting to either material. Things that you will need is, of course, the print. You should have two pieces, the larger star and then the little keychain star part. And you will need some paint. I recommend you use a transparent paint. You might be able to get away with watering down your acrylics to keep the transparency, but I really like these transparent paints. The ones I have found that I really like are these Crystal Gloss Enamels. It's an Americana brand. I found these at Joann's, and you will need red, blue, yellow, and white. Don't get clear, get white. And then you will need a regular acrylic, Folk Art's fine, or anything like that, just whatever you prefer. Some regular colors, non-transparent paints for the sort of the frame. Gold if you're doing Terra, or your own, if you want to do your own custom colors. Silver for Aqua and Ventus for the logo in the middle, and then a brown for the twine that represents the 3D printed twine, and then the silver is also for the frame. I also recommend getting a nice thick gloss or varnish to paint afterwards to help it to stick, and just to protect your paint in the paint job, especially if you're going to be using these for cosplay and whatnot. They are a little fragile, so gentle cosplay would be fine, but keep an eye on it, especially since it's a keychain, and if you put it on your keyblade, it'll hang and hit things. Some of the parts are a little on the fragile side. It's not too bad. I mean, if I drop it, it's fine. The one that would likely most break is the little charm here, because it's a little fragile. It actually feels a lot like, your sugar candies that you melt and you bake, kind of like your Jolly Ranchers, kind of that kind of consistency. A little bit stronger, perhaps, but pretty close. And then, of course, you will need water, because this is a water-soluble paint. And then, some napkins. And then Q-tips are really, really helpful. And also toothpicks, because of these fine little details, and to help you do some of the texture. And then, of course, some paintbrushes. That should be about all that you need. You see here? And we will go ahead. This will be part 1 of the video that I will be painting the little star detail thingamabob. Yeah. And it's got sort of a rainbow. It's got blue, then aqua, then green, then red, then yellow. as from what I can determine. So what I do is I just go ahead and take my toothpick, and it's incest, they're like window panes. So I go ahead and stick that and just kind of have it fill in. And then I've already pre-mixed some colors, so I've got my aqua right here. For the next one, make sure not to get too much. If you do, you can grab your Q-tip. You can either grab a new Q-tip or, just wipe off some of the excess so we don't start mixing colors. And then green. And then red. And then I'm going to grab a new toothpick for the yellow, because I don't want it to come out looking orange, and red is very easy to taint. Okay. I've got two cameras going here, so we've got our close-up here, and then our farther one here. Okay, so once that's colored, set it off to the side. Make sure that you didn't fill it with too much so that it's leaking over the sides. Okay, now I'm going to be doing Aquas Colors. She has a blue to a light blue or white gradient on her petals, with the dark blue or blue on the inside near the logo center, and then more whitish or light blue on the outside. So what I do is I go ahead and do about 2 drops of paint at the top. Of the white, and again, white, not clear. And then 2 drops blue. And this is a bit thick, chunky paint, very gel-like, which is great because it'll help us make the patterns. Okay, and you can go ahead and continue with your toothpick, or you can grab a brush at this point. Either works, but what you're going to do is start spreading out the color. And you should fill about 1/3 to 1/2 blue petal. Make sure you get all the way around, and in the corners see, this might be just a little too much blue. It didn't pour out very nicely. I wanted to just glump. But get around the little circle where the twine goes and all the little details go. Make sure you follow where the frame goes. Like here, it's kind of zigzag at the top of the center logo piece or icon piece. And you want to make sure it's nice and thick at the bottom or in towards the center, and then a little thinner towards where the white is. Okay. And then I'm gonna flip my Q-tip over and then make sure my white got into my corners and back out. Just making sure that's filled in at the top there. Now the fun part of mixing the two. Don't want it to be white, you want it to be kind of blue. But you also kind of want to keep some of the fun texture and just kind of swirl it in sort of up swirl lines, kind of snake lines. Going from the white mostly to the blue, but also to the blue to the white. And then kind of mix in a little bit of the blue into the white top portion so that it doesn't look like it's white blue, but light blue and blue with a little bit of white snowy at the top kind of thing. And your paint will settle as it dries. It will kind of merge a little bit together, so you'll lose a little bit of this detail. So if it's a little sharp, it's fine. It will most likely come back, kind of blur together, if that makes sense. Yeah, be as artsy as you want with it. Last petal. Check your corners all along the edges, just kind of turn around and make sure you've got everything. Make sure there's no bubbles, unless you want little spots that eventually pop that will have no color. And then this is where we take our Q-tip. I like to wet it a little bit so it's not so fuzzy everywhere, but take most of that water off. And then we do a little cleanup around the frame, especially that circle where the where the twine stitches are. And then clean off your excess paint. Get any others that need it. Of course, use a new Q-tip as needed. And along the points too, or any of the edges, anywhere where you kind of got too much paint or didn't stay within the lines. That way when you go and paint later, it'll be easier. You won't have to paint on top of. Kind of go along the edges if need be. Okay. And I actually recommend have this dry overnight, give it plenty of drying time, just so that it's all nice and settled. And then we will come back up and paint the frame and the inside. And then we'll let that dry, and then we will gloss it, and it'll be done. So we're going to stop recording, and we will continue this